Hey everyone, this is Lisa from Life in Layouts. It's the last day of the month, so that means month in review. I pulled out my simple stories for the record, as well as this sketch from Scrapbook Generation. It is the sketches for month in review, and I'm going to be using sketch number 5. I will link it below for you guys if you would like to check it out. This sketch calls for mainly 4x4 photos, and I do use a majority of them are 4x4, but a couple of photos I couldn't make down to a 4x4, or I felt like they would be better in a 3x4, so I am going to change the sketch up just a little bit. Of course, you guys know that I'm going to be pulling out some flip-flaps. For this particular layout, I have 2 flip-flaps. One is going to be a 4x4, and one will be a 4x6. I am just playing around with the photos, trying to figure out the configuration that I would like. I did know that I was going to have at least 2 full 4x4 spaces for some embellishments, but I also knew that because I had cut down 2 of the photos to a 3x4, that I was going to have closer to like a 2x4 section as well. I knew I wanted that center square to contain the piece that I'm using on every single layout, and that is the pre-made embellishment with the calendar, as well as that large number 5. And I am using that number to cover up the space where it has the number 20 and then a space for you to write in the year, because I do not like that as well. I realized that my photos were not quite 4 inches, so I just had to do a little bit of paper shaving to trim them down. And then I'm going to go ahead and get all of the photos down on the layout. As I'm doing that, let me just walk through some of the photos that are on here. In the very bottom is actually 2 screenshots. The top part of the screenshot talks about a screen that I saw when I logged in to get my pass holder preview for Tiana's Bayou. And my wait time was over an hour, which was about the same time for Tron. So I knew that that's what I was going to be looking forward to when I tried to get this pass holder preview. The bottom half of that screenshot is a screenshot from Facebook. It's a part of a Disney Facebook group that I'm in. It talks about the fact that all of the park pass reservations were gone. Luckily, I had already gotten mine, but I wanted to include that there was an hour wait, and then the fact that I got in before all of it was gone. So I was super excited about that. I do have a layout for our pass holder preview. I will link it below for you guys if you'd like to check that out. The photo right above that is the frog that I found in my sink. This particular day, Eli had came in and I was actually scrapbooking, and he told me that his bathroom sink was not draining, and I had remembered that it wasn't draining very well before, and I had told myself that I needed to talk to him about it, but I had completely forgotten. So I went in there and I was telling him about cleaning out the sink and things like that, and it still wasn't working. I ended up having to take the pipe out from underneath the sink, and that is when I found this big old frog in that sink. So the joys of living in Florida with wetlands behind you, you get animals like that in your pipes quite often. It's not the first time it's happened. It will definitely not be the last. The photo that's right above that is just some items that I was going to get rid of that was in my scrapbook room. About this time, so May of 2024, was when I decided that I needed to do a scrapbook room reset. That actually happened in October. I do have a playlist for that. It's listed below if you guys like to check that out. On the left-hand side of the layout, I did decide to do 2 4x6 photos over there. I just couldn't get those photos to get down to a 4x4. And I knew that I had to create a flip-flap for one of them because 3 of the photos are kind of the same thing. It was my clean desk, and then when you flip it up, you're going to be able to see my messy scrap box and then my cleaned and organized scrap box. And then the last photo that's going to be on the left-hand side was just our dinner one night. We often pick up dinner from Publix, which includes a Publix sub, sushi, and on this particular day, there was buy one, get one free on some brioche donuts, which they were super yummy. This layout is wall-to-wall photos, but on the left-hand side, the sketch does call for some strips of paper. So down at the bottom is the 4x6 photos that covers the bottom half of the layout. And then I have 8 inches where I'm going to add these strips. And then in the center of the strips is going to be a very large journaling block. Once I picked out all of the paper, mainly from the 6x8 paper pad, I also did pull in some scraps. I used my Stampin' Up! Border punch to cut a border on both sides. The banner is at the top, and then like the other side of the banner, so it kind of looks like an arrow, is down at the bottom. I felt like using this particular shape was a little bit different than what I normally do, so it just gave some contrast to the layouts that I've been doing recently. I'm then going to pull out my T-square ruler and line these papers up. I knew that I wanted to have some overlap on the papers, and I really didn't think about it in the beginning. I should have tucked in the papers behind. So what you're going to see is the first 4 banners have all been tucked under each other. And then I started to realize that I wanted to switch it up. So with the camera paper, that's when I started to tuck them underneath. So because I had already had 4 papers that were tucked on top, I decided to tuck a couple underneath and then start tucking on top again. And then I started alternating. So it did give it some contrast, and I'm probably going to be the only person that's going to notice that it has the first 4 are all underneath, but I'm perfectly okay with that. For that striped paper, it was in the wrong orientation on that 6x8 piece of paper, so I decided to just go ahead and cut it in half and make sure that it was in the center so I could cover it up. The same thing for that really large striped paper. I knew that I wanted to make sure that that was on the end, because if I had put it underneath where my journaling was going to be, you weren't going to be able to really tell that it was a big block of striped paper. So that is going to be my last paper, and I do end up tucking that underneath the push pin paper because I do think that that's probably my favorite paper in this collection. Actually, it's a toss-up between the push pins and that pink and orange floral. So once I got all of the strips down, then I'm going to go ahead and pull out my tools that I use for stitching. This ruler I did pick up from scrapbook.com, and it is linked below. All of my other stitching tools I do pick up from Amazon, and I have a link below for them as well if you'd like to check it out. I did slow the video down here so that you can see the stitching that I did. After I poked all of my holes, I realized that I didn't need to poke them in the center, so I went back and put in my journaling so I can know where not to stitch. This is probably the first layout where I really focused on the journaling. Some of the layouts that I've done so far for the month in review, I've had to put my journaling in flip-flops, or I've had to find places that they would fit. But this journaling really is the star of the show, and I really like the way that this came out. I did use some fun foam, and this is one of the things that I love about fun foam, because I was basically able to just use a really large strip on the back of it. I know that my journaling is going to be flat across because that fun foam covers the entire strip. I did put my stamping block on top of it just to add some weight so that it doesn't bow with that liquid adhesive. And then I also put my photo in the flip flap. Then the fun part begins. I started out with this sticker that I'm using on each one of the layouts. So for the month of May, I pulled out the May. I did decide to put that on fun foam just to give it a little bit of lift and keep it the same height as my journaling. I am going to work on the right hand side of the layout and try to fill in these last 2 squares. That center square, I did add some polka dotted paper and then that month with the number 5, but I just couldn't figure out what to add to the top section. I looked through a bunch of different pieces, through the paper, through the embellishments, and I was just struggling. I finally found this card here that has a pin on it as well as a little stamp that says the word note. And I love the way that it looked there, but it was getting cut off. So I decided to go ahead and trim down the photo of myself to make it a little bit thinner so that that piece could fit on there very well. And then I knew that I could add some embellishments to that to build up that piece there. I really like this typewriter with the flowers, but it just didn't fit. It was just a little too big. So ultimately I ended up with this push pin paper as my background for that 4x4 square. And then I added this yellow paper, and I don't think that this goes with this collection. When I got the collection kit, it was the one that has like the extra pieces with it. and the ephemera pieces that I got was for the wrong collection. Ultimately, they did send me the right one, but I had already put it on my page protectors, so I'm not sure which ones go with it and which ones don't, but this one does look a little off, but I'm still using it because it's a part of my collection that I got. And then I just started to build up the collections with some of the ephemera pieces, just looking through my pieces and trying to fit things in there. Next month I have a plan and I am really excited about that. I have channeled Nicole for sure on this, and I am going to be using one of her techniques. She is also collaborating with me, so I will link her video below. When we started out on this collaboration, it really wasn't a collaboration. It was just, we both really liked this Simple Stories collection, and we both decided individually that we were going to use it for the month in review. I just kind of pushed her into the fact that, hey, I'm going to be posting on the last day of the month, so if you can get your video and layout completed by then, I would love to share your link. And she has done it for most months. I think she's still missing one, but I am kicking and dragging her behind me and getting her to get this collection completed as well. She's got a lot going on, and I'm really appreciative that she is collaborating with me, even if it is kind of in an informal way. For the left-hand side of the layout, I struggled so much because I decided to use very, very busy pattern paper, and I didn't think about the fact that I needed to have embellishment clusters on this very busy pattern paper. So I was able to make this work because I feel like I did have some grounding pieces. And those grounding pieces are the orange piece of scrap paper that I used my border punch on to make like a notebook paper. And then I was able to add some embellishments on top of that orange. And I felt like having the orange paper there just broke it up enough that it gave me the ability to add some different embellishments. And then down in the right-hand corner, I added that really large chipboard camera. And that's really the main embellishment piece that I'm going to have there. I'm going to add a couple more pieces, but I wanted to keep it simple since the background paper was so busy. I'm also trying to use up all of the numbers that I can. So I did struggle with that number 5. I ultimately couldn't find a place at that point, but it is going to come back here in a minute. When I'm working through these pieces, I'm really just filling out embellishment clusters wherever I am inspired to do something. Maybe I see a sticker or another embellishment piece and I'm like, oh, it will look great in this embellishment cluster. So I do bounce around a lot trying to get my embellishment clusters to look like I want them to. In no way do I think that I'm an expert in embellishment clusters. I just feel like I keep putting things in it until it doesn't work anymore. And sometimes I do have to end up moving things. I did have that circle number 5 over on the right-hand side, and I just couldn't find a place for that other number 5. I really liked it in the 4x4 cluster. So I ended up moving my circle number 5 in the center of the camera, and I just love the way that that looks. Now I'm going to start to date my photos, and I do have both of these items listed below if you would like to pick them up. The circle die as well as this Lawn Fawn stamp, and it's the same circle die and Lawn Fawn stamp that I've been using for all of my layouts. So as I am stamping this, let me just talk a little bit more about the photos. I don't have too many more. There is one photo of just me. It's a selfie of myself. And I had done some really bad damage to my hair. Really, really bad. It was bad. And that was in January of 2023. So we're talking over a year now. And I had actually was fixing my hair to go out on a date. It was the first time that I was like, oh, my hair is actually starting to be healthy again. I've done lots of treatments to it to get it to that point. That was that selfie there. I was super excited about the fact that my hair was actually starting to look good again. There are 2 photos of us with dogs. We have Eli laying on the couch with Bo. He's one of our regulars. You guys actually just saw him in my 4K celebration video. He was with us back in May of 2024 as well. And then there was Lily. That was her very first visit with us, and she was definitely one that needed lots of attention. So there was often times when she was jumping up on me and wanting attention from me. And then I have 2 additional photos, and those are going to be in the flip flap, and they're going to be in the upper right hand corner. There is a photo of myself sitting on the couch. I think I've talked to you guys about this before. I do all of my editing on my iPad, which is one thing that I love about being able to create content. It's that I can edit content anywhere, sitting on the couch, laying in bed, in my car, which is from another layout that I did. And I wanted to include it here because I had included it on another layout that I was editing a video in my car. And then the other photo that's in the flip flap is when I decided that I was going to take my stitching thread, and I just had a full bag full of stitching threads and I needed to put them in some organization. So it's just a picture of me organizing them. And that was actually, I think, my first short that has a ton of views. I used that popular TikTok sound that was like, let's skip to the good part. And I definitely wanted to do that with all of these threads. I'm using the same die that I've been using for all the other layouts that I've done this month with the year 2024. I did pull out that really pretty blue paper that I used quite a bit of in the last layout. I only have a little bit left, but I do think I have another sheet of it and I might have to bring it in for this layout. I just love the shimmer that blue brings to this layout. And I decided to add the year 2024 below the calendar in that center 4x4 photo. I do believe that Nicole has created a 1-page layout. So if you would like to see how she does month in review with 1 pages as opposed to double page layouts, make sure you check out her video. It is posted below. I also decided that I needed to fill that tag hole, which turns into an issue because I had already put the liquid adhesive down on the fun foam and I actually had to go off camera. It took me a long time to get that thread in there, but I do like that little added touch. I did rip the paper when I was trying to put that in. So once I use my glue dots to secure down that thread, I'm going to pull out my enamel dots and add one right where I tore the paper and then a couple more on that same card. And then since I added it there, I decided to go ahead and add some enamel dots around in my other clusters as well. And then that is it for this video. Here is my final layout as well as some close-ups. I hope that you guys have enjoyed this month in review. I can't believe we're already on May. And I have some fun ideas for next month layout. I can't wait to play along. If you enjoyed this video, if you wouldn't mind giving me a thumbs up, I would really appreciate it. If you haven't done so already and you want to see more double page layout inspiration, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Thanks everyone for watching, and I hope that you have a scrappy day.